Good morning. Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak on Citizen Television. Thank you for staying with us this morning. Our conversation revolves around the call for dialogue by members of the clergy who are calling upon the president and the opposition leader, Raila Odinga, to dialogue, reconcile politically for the best interest of the country. And that if that doesn't happen, the country risks taking the path of anarchy if the political leadership does not take the responsibility.
Indeed, and we want to talk about exactly that, I beg your pardon. And let me just run you through our panel in case you're just joining us. We are going to be having a sit down with Sheikh Hassan Olenado. He is the national chairperson of the Supreme Council of Kenya Muslims. We also have with us this morning Wambui Nyutu, the vice chairperson of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. And this morning, we're also hosting Dr. Alphonse Kanga, the regional chair of the National Council of Churches of Kenya. So we just want to begin, and let me start with you, Wambui, looking at an assessment of what is happening in the country. Your commission actually serves the mandate that revolves around sort of being a watchdog on the stability of the country. If you observe what has developed in the past few days, Monday being the climax, and we have also the Azimio coalition threatening that it's going to be sustained in a period that is not specified, what would be your words to describe what is happening?
Yeah, thank you very much, first of all, for hosting me this morning, and a very good morning to all Kenyans watching. As a country, we held a very peaceful general election last year. And we wish to appreciate all Kenyans who kept peace before, during the election period. And now this is the aftermath of the election. And we still call for peace among all Kenyans. As a country, we are faced by various challenges, of which all of them need to be solved amicably. Kenya is not the only country that is facing economic challenges. There are very many countries out there that are facing economic challenges, but the solution does not at all lie in violence. It is important to air views. It is important to complain. It is important to picket. In fact, the Constitution gives Kenyans the right to picket and to protest of anything that they find unworthy that government is doing. But these protests, this picketing must be done in a peaceful manner. People's businesses must not be closed, lives must not be lost, and life must continually progress as we continue to picket and to protest. At the same time, government also has a responsibility to take care of its citizens, to ensure that they have quality life, you know, to ensure that they are living in good conditions, to ensure that the food is affordable, that the economy is performing well, that positions are equitably distributed, and that every single Kenyan feels that they are part of government, that some people do not feel segregated. So it's a difficult situation that needs sobriety during its discussion. It does not need just stamping. Leaders must come together, sit and discuss. And what we are seeing happening, for example, is something that has been done before. We are having Right Honorable Raila Odinga demand for dialogue. He did it in 1997 and he succeeded. He did it in 2007 and he succeeded. He did it in 2017 and he succeeded. You know, calling for dialogue and forcing government to sit down and negotiate. You know, so is it an abuse of a democratic process? Okay. Or is it, you know, fighting for what he believes is right and just? That is the question that Kenyans and maybe the leaders are supposed to answer. But all in all, whatever we face, whatever we look forward to, we must do it in a peaceful and in a manner that ensures that all Kenyans do not lose lives and that they live in a place that is peaceful and solve issues amicably. Okay.
Well, in the past, there are many political leaders who had shown no regard for the framework within which the Constitution lays out the manner to protest, to picket, that must be peaceful, the freedoms provided but limited to some extent. And we'll be talking about that. And how to tame hate speech, because the church and the mosques are concerned, or the religious community, about the current state of the country. Dr. Kanga, coming to you, what's your reading of the current state?
The reading of my current state, thank you so much for having us this morning again, Abdi. But we have tried the much we can. The current state is simply the ship is sinking. And when the ship is sinking, and we have parents in that ship who are drilling holes in that ship as it sinks, then those parents need to come out and show some leadership. You have a ship, you are inside the ship, and that ship is sinking, and instead of coming up to show leadership so that you can seal those holes that's getting water inside, what do? You continue drilling it. And so what's the situation? The situation is that what I've described. Or a house is leaking, and the children are crying, and you tell the children that I want to repair this house, and yet the children are still under the roof. What do? You cool down the children, get them outside, explain to them, and then repair the house. And so what are we supposed to do right now? What's happening right now? What's happened right now that both gentlemen need to stand up and show some kind of leadership by calling for peace. Okay. I come from a perspective we say, blessed are the peacemakers. We don't get peace, we make peace. And so what they're supposed to do is to come up and make peace, because they will not continue drilling the holes in this ship. Why? Some of the things she has just mentioned, they are not for our making. The drought is not your own making. COVID-19 was not our making. It makes the ship sink. And then there is that of our making. The ones for our making is maandamano and chest thumping. Chest thumping and maandamano will not be able to solve the problems we have on the table right now. What are we supposed to do? Stop chest thumping. Why are you chest thumping? It's because you are trying to achieve your goal. Why are you going for maandamano? Because there is something you want to achieve out of maandamano. Both of us are Kenyans. Nobody has a title for Kenya. All of us belong to this country. And so what are we supposed to do? We come together and agree this is the way. So what's the way? Dialogue.
And we'll talk about those holes and how to fix them in a manner that you feel would be fruitful for the country. But just coming to you, Sheikh, there's a big section of this country, a majority, I would say, not necessarily depending on where you come from, that feel that they've been pushed to the wall, that this is as a result of having cried and their plight fell on deaf ears, that this was the only alternative to sort of wake up the government to do something to address the issues affecting the country. Do you think that line of thought is justified?
Thank you for having us this morning. I think actually it is not justified, because as a country we gave ourselves the set of rules how we want to govern ourselves. We agreed as a country collectively that we shall be going to elections in every 5 years. It was agreed that way. And in every election, one person, of course, one party, whatever it is, will actually win, others will lose. We are always going to have one winner at any given time. That means we are going to have several people failing to achieve in that particular election. But it doesn't mean that now when you don't get what you want, then you go and mobilize Kenyans against the other group, that we did not win, this is what we have. The Constitution has actually given us ways of how we can get out, we can address the issues that we have. One of those issues is that if you have issues within the electoral process, we have the 14 days where the Supreme Court is brought on board to determine who is the winner of that election. And when that is done, what the ordinary Kenyans expect, we expect the government to be formed and we continue doing things that are supposed to be done. Now, when we go out and mobilize Kenyans who are actually in their needs of their services, we are really abusing the space, in my view, the democratic space. I have one time when I was in charge of young people, there was a time we mobilized a very peaceful demonstration in this country, a very peaceful one. It was actually a religious one. And believe me, when we started the demonstration, after Friday prayers, we have a huge population of people, young people, who said they are not praying with us, but they'll join us in the demonstration. But when we began the demonstration, as we walk around until we reach El Silazia, then the hell broke loose, because the rest of the people, actually thieves, they are people who wanted to take advantage of our peaceful procession. So what happened? We lost. So in this country, you cannot pretend to organize a peaceful demonstration in a city. Okay. Maybe you do it in
okay, the nexus here, before we get the sound bites of Bishop Philip Anyolo and the SUPCAM leadership who addressed the press in Mombasa, and the bishop was on Sunday in Thika. Then is the problem the security agencies, the protesters, or those who camouflage within the protesters and cause havoc?
Actually, in my view, they both are a problem. First, we have a huge population of young people who have no jobs. And because of the needs, the challenges they are facing, they'll always want to take advantage of that kind of a procession. And they'll come in handy and they'll take advantage of that particular situation. In my view, the only place you can have a peaceful demonstration is at the village, not in the city. It will never happen in this city that you are going to have a peaceful demonstration. It is going to be really difficult. Then we have the security organizations who have the mandate to protect the lives and the properties of the Kenyan people. So in that case, when sometimes you can actually see direct provocation by those who are demonstrating. Sometimes you also see security provoking those who are demonstrating. So in a way, it's a two-way traffic where you have security personnel being provoked, and you can also see security personnel provoking demonstrators. But in all situations, you cannot have a peaceful demonstration at this point in time.
Thank you.
Wambui, what do you think, though? Because it's a constitutional right. You spoke about it earlier. Yeah. It's open for both those who are living in the city and those who are living in the rural areas. Yeah. But he says that it's next to impossible. In fact, he says it is not possible. It's impossible to have a peaceful demonstration in the city. Considering the fact that it's still open and it's a democratic space and it's a right, how do you navigate? How do you stifle that right and make people not speak?
I think Kenyans have a right. That is true. You cannot take it away from them. The right does not limit where they should demonstrate. You know, they are allowed to demonstrate anywhere in the country. But at the same time, it should be a demonstration with responsibility. I think what my colleague is saying here is that we have not seen that sense of responsibility in the past. And I believe our leaders can be able to command their followers, because these are followers of a certain politician who are demonstrating, or these are people who are demonstrating for a certain cause, you know. And I believe that they can listen when they are talked to. So probably to ask the Azimio coalition to sit down with their supporters, just ask them to respect the rest of the Kenyans who are trying to make a living. Because the demonstrations we are seeing is a demonstration which is fighting for the economy. People are, I think they are calling it the Sufuria movement. Okay. This Sufuria movement is a movement by hustlers. These are people who are hungry. These are people who are fighting for, better lives, better livelihoods. And as they do so, they need to remember that there are their colleagues still on the streets of Nairobi who are working for that Sufuria, who are working hard to earn their daily bread, to go home with a piece of to go home with a packet of unga. So as you demonstrate during the day, remember that, for example, on Monday, the whole streets were empty. I was one of the people who had to go to work, and I was, surprised because the streets were empty, all the shops were closed, the matatus were not moving. But what does this mean? It means that the people who rely on this city for their daily bread did not get their daily bread on Monday. Okay. So as we do the demonstrations, which is a right guaranteed by the Constitution, we also need to respect the right of people who need to be working, the rights of people who need to be earning, and also the police, because the police have also the responsibility to ensure that there is peace in the country, to ensure that there is peaceful protest. But the police cannot be engaging, demonstrators when demonstrators are just moving and you see a police just fighting them, throwing tear gas, and yet there was no provocation. So as he says, it's true that both the police And the demonstrators need to have a sense of responsibility.
Okay.
Because this is issues of constitutional rights.
Thank you.
On both parties.
When we get back from the break, Dr. Kanga, Sheikh Hassan and Wamboi, we also put you on the spotlight over the language of the political establishment. The call for dialogue, but whether that will be heeded by members of the political establishment who bear the responsibility by virtue of sitting at policy decision tables as to how they have steered the country with regards to regulations and laws that ought to better the lives of Kenyans, and why this responsibility appears to be falling on both sides of the political divide, yet there seems to be no substantive service delivery for the Kenyan people.
Indeed, and I know you have something to say with regards to what we are discussing this morning, so why don't you share that with us at Citizen TV Kenya, at Safina_Ching, at Ayub Abdi Kadir. We will be sampling some of your views as we continue to have this very important conversation in the course of this broadcast. But for now, we take a very short break. Don't go too far.